just going to show you, before we begin with some other things, where I am and what I'm looking at as I will be talking with you. Let's see if we can see me. So I'm sitting in front of these beautiful objects, which include two crystals that Maida made available, one to Synergos and one to Barry and me, and beautiful flowers that I just picked. And I'm sitting on the floor in my house in Tarrytown, which many of you have been to, and I hope that others of you will come to soon. And so, Marilia, do you think we should start?
I think so. I think we are ready. And I'll start just by saying how excited I am to be with all of you and how right it feels to be in community right now. I will start with more terrestrial concerns and just run us through. Let me see if I can make this. Here we go. Run us through how we're going to spend our time together so you can have a sense of where we are at any given point of our 90 minutes together. And also run us through some logistics to help you be as connected as you can be to us, moderating into the community. And then I will ask you one question, and that is a little bit of a game or a play that something we want to share with you at the end of the call. And I'll ask you that question in just a moment. After the question, Peggy is going to guide us through a grounding exercise so we can all come to this present moment. And then Peggy and I are going to share a little bit of some ideas, some content with you, some tools that we want to offer for us to be able to be present to a moment that is very disruptive and complex, chaotic. After we share some ideas, we open for conversation, and we think that this is really the most precious part of our time together. And then we're going to close with some tips, some navigation tips for this moment in time. And we'll share this little thing we're going to co-create with you today, which I'll explain now. Actually, no, let me go through the logistics, because the logistics are gonna help us. So first, if you can, please enable your video camera so we can see each other, so we can be present for one another. It would be perfect world, we would all be in one room, but short of that, seeing you in camera is really wonderful. If you can name yourself on Zoom, if you see your little screen and you're showing a phone number there, you can just click on the more near your name icon and then rename yourself, so we know who you are in case you're coming in late and you didn't have a chance to introduce yourselves. We're going to keep everybody muted while we're talking, just so there's no noise interference. But if you want to speak, when you want to speak, we hope you will want to chat with us. You can just go on the chat box and say, I'd like to share, or I'd like to say something or ask a question. And there's someone on our team who is going to be making sure that you get unmuted. So the chat function, I am going to show it on a slide. It's really simple to use, but the next slide I will explain how to go there. If you can't hear well through your computer speakers or your headphones, you can dial in through this number that's on the screen right now. Hopefully that won't be necessary. And if you need a non-US number, there's a link here too that will help you find an easy number for you where you are. And the last is that the discussion, actually the presentation part of this discussion, we're looking to share online. And we're gonna be recording it. And my understanding, and I don't know if someone on the production team can tell me, is that we are not recording the discussion part of our conversation today. And if this is not true, raise your hand and let me know that I'm saying, keep me honest. And then last here, look, this is at the screen right here at the bottom. You see there's a little chat window. If you click on that, you see that sidebar pop up, and you can type right here whatever you want to say. And right above where you type, you see where there's marks to everyone. So you'll be typing that and everyone will be seeing, right? If you want to just send a message to someone privately, you can click on that little arrow right to the right of everyone, and you'll be able to choose someone. And this is important because I'm going to ask you a question, and I would love for you to write your answers to someone called Vincent, who, if you have trouble finding it, no worries, you can just send it to everyone. But we would love for you to go there on the chat box now and find Vincent and get ready to answer the following question, which is a question that helps us just take the temperature and see where we are individually and collectively right now. And it's the simplest question, is how are you feeling right now? And we would love for you to answer that question with just 3 words, not a sentence, but 3 words that represent how you're feeling right now. And if you could do that via answer those, we're not gonna share with anyone what your answer is. Individually, we're gonna create something interesting from all the answers. But if you wouldn't mind now taking a minute to just, perhaps even I would invite you to close your eyes for a second and just feel into how you are feeling right now. And when you're ready, if you go to the chat and type in your answers to Vincent, and if you can't find Vincent, you can type it to everyone if you feel comfortable, or to me. And we're gonna give you some time, and you can keep submitting those. You can keep submitting those answers to Vincent if you need a little bit more time. And then here is where we would start with our moment together and our grounding exercise that Peggy is gonna take us through.
Thank you, Marilia. So if you could make yourselves comfortable wherever you're sitting, I'm going to turn on some music which begins rather softly and then will get louder as the time goes on. And I'm going to ring a bell right now in the hope that you've found a comfortable seat with your feet somehow on the ground, and that you will listen to the bell as the beginning of this meditation. So if you could begin to imagine that our beautiful earth is sending her energy up through your feet. And breathe her in. So as you breathe in, starting with the feet that are receiving her energy, you can feel the energy coming up through your legs, up into the base of your spine, up your spine, all the way up into your third eye, and out your crown chakra. And with each in-breath, you can begin to feel that flow. And then with the out-breath, you can feel all of that energy which you've taken in going down, down, down through your body into every cell. In these times where we get so easily triggered by fear, the breath can be our guide back into presence, back into community, back into connection with ourselves, connection with our community, and finally connection with our earth. This can be a constant practice throughout your day. You can do it for 3 breaths if you're busy. You don't even need to close your eyes. But make sure that the breath is fairly deep coming in, with the image of it going up your spine, and then releasing down all that good energy into every cell of your body. We are our bodies, and our bodies hold everything that's going through us. But we can invite into it the healing, the calming, the loving energy that comes from this earth. And I can feel the loving energy that's starting to come from each one of you into this gathered community now. So once you're grounded in sending the energy into your own cells, then imagine your out-breath, the best of you, the loving heart of you, the compassionate mind of you, sending out, out, out to each other, to your families, to those who are already affected or about to be affected by the thing that is making us afraid, and which we are working to come to a peaceful, present place inside of ourselves. As you take the next few out breaths, listen to the sound of your mouth being open, breathing out all that energy through your mouth. And then in the next few inhales, breathing in all the energy that all of us are sending to you. As I do that, I feel that energy going up my back. I become aware of my back. I lean back into it a little bit. I feel protected by it. And each breath I'm breathing in strengthens that column that is my spine. And gives me the kind of calming, present energy I need for myself and all those who are around me. So as you keep that calm, silent breathing going throughout this time, and the sense of all of us sending out our love into the world, we're going to bring this meditation to a close and come back to ourselves as a group. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peggy. What a difference a few breaths make. And what a difference community makes, being with all of you. Peggy and I thought that we could start our sharing today by recognizing what is the dominating feeling or energy in this moment in time, in this moment of crisis. And recognizing that energy is in our communities. I just had this very clear experience of going out of New York for a night this past weekend, and driving back into the city. There is, for those of you, us who are energy sensitive, there is a palpable heaviness almost that is present here. And we wanted to name it outside of ourselves and inside of ourselves. And that's why we start with recognizing fear as a dominating force right now. And I'm gonna share my screen. I won't be able to see your beautiful faces for a moment, but I'll come back. And I know you can still see each other, right? And so in talking about fear, I wanted to just start by recognizing what fear does to us physically, physiologically. You know, as we are in a state of fear, it's basically our fight or flight response. Our body gets washed with hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. And those are hormones that if they stay with us for a long, long time, they cause inflammation and they lower our immune response. So for a very basic reason of wanting to stay healthy and stay well, it's important that we recognize that energy and that response in us. And, you know, and if you stay with that for long periods of time, you know, neuroplasticity, which is great for those of us who meditate, to recognize that we can transform our neural pathways and get rid of past trauma responses. It also can work in the other way around, in which when we stay with this fear in us for long periods of time, we can start degenerating really our responses to challenges and threats. So it's really important that we recognize it in ourselves. And that's why we thought to put this to you. This is a long laundry list of the many ways that fear and resistance, which is another form of fear, can be showing up in our lives right now. And what we thought we would do with you is just to take a quick self-diagnostic. This is not for you to share with us, but just for you to take note and look through this list. I'll give you a moment to look through this list and just notice how many of those, mark down or write down how many of those you feel like you have been experiencing over the last month, couple of weeks, the last days, or even you might be experiencing in the future. So I'll give you a moment to read through that list. And just make note to yourself, what in this is present in you right now or in the past weeks? And if you're ready, I would note for us that there are about 30 forms of fear and resistance listed here. So if you note for yourself, if you had up to 10 of those marked for yourself, then you're probably on the lower. You are on the lower side of the scale. If you had between 10 and 20, you have a fair amount of fear present for you right now. And if you're between 20 and 30, you are experiencing a pretty large immersion, a deep immersion in the energy of fear and resistance. And then the invitation is to, when we try and fix it, try and make a feeling go away, is not necessarily a successful tactic or strategy. So I wanted to pass it on to Peggy for her to share with us some tools or some guidance on how we might be able to navigate from this place. And before I do that, I wanted to just share what my meditation teacher was highlighting the other day. And she was saying that the way to meet fear is with courage, but that courage is not a thing that happens to you. It's not a state that just simply appears and you are blessed with being awash in courage. But courage is a choice. It's a choice and a willingness to confront the fear. It's the action in the presence of fear. And it's the judgment that something else is more important than the fear that you're feeling, and you're moving towards that something else that's more important. So with that, Peggy, would you be ready to take us from here?
As ready as I'll ever be. So many of you have seen this exercise that I'm going to take you through, either in the paper that I wrote called Building Trust Works. Some of you know this landscape in Montana, where we do the Synergos Montana retreats. And I thought it might be appropriate to go through this exercise again at this moment, because often when we talk about trauma, and maybe we could have the first slide, Marilia. When we talk about trauma, which is, as you can see over in the left-hand side, shame, fear, grief, rage, or some of the manifestations, we talk about it maybe as childhood trauma, or, being a victim of violence or whatever. What we're all facing together now is a traumatic experience. The not knowing, the worrying about ourselves and others, getting sick, even dying. That's a shock to the system. And so how do we find ways to work through, to soften that trauma, which often then triggers, of course, other traumas we may have had before. So today we're obviously going to focus mostly on the trauma of fear. And those of you who have been through one of the retreats, whether in Brazil or Montana or a few of the other places that we've done them, know that the context of a group that can build trust in each other to create what we call a safe container that you'll see at the bottom of the screen is a really important factor in this. And why is that? Because when we hold trauma, we're holding it in our bodies, in our minds, in our souls. And it needs to find a way of getting aired. But in a way, the more frightened we are, the more likely we are to hold on tight. Hold on tight to try to make ourselves safe. But ultimately, we're holding that trauma, that fear inside ourselves. And so in the context of a group, this is the first opportunity I've had to do this online. And so we're clearly a virtual group. And we're not expecting that this particular group will have the same function that having a group of friends or family or whoever the people that you can gather around you are, with whom you can build a container of safety. We're not expecting that this will all happen today in this few minutes, but just to take you through the process of ways that those of us who've shared this experience with me and others of us at Synergos have had, can get ourselves to the place of feeling safe enough to open up. And as you'll see in the beginning of this spiral, the first aspect of that is feeling trusting or safe enough to be vulnerable. And what does that mean? What might mean just saying, I'm feeling really scared, or I feel really unsafe right now, or this is triggering a whole lot of stuff for me. The strange part is, it might seem paradoxical, but the expression of that vulnerability by one person invariably opens the hearts of others, so that they then feel what we would call empathy for the other person who's feeling that sense of, in this case, probably fear, whatever it might be, sadness, etc. And it allows that person who's just expressed a true feeling to permit themselves to take off whatever mask they've been wearing to keep themselves safe and protected, and to be more authentic. And the effect of that is that the other people see who their true beautiful self is and express and feel trust and love in that person. Therefore, the person then becomes reinforced about being okay, about it's possible to be vulnerable, and of feeling trusted, and then somehow of becoming more trustworthy. So this is the beginning of the opposite spiral that trauma can create. And the sense of belonging, just go back one sec, please. The sense of belonging that first spiral allows then leads us into another interesting part of the sequence. We can go to the next slide, in which, because of the trust and belonging that we're beginning to feel, we can open up just a little bit into curiosity. Often the opposite of curiosity is judgment. We protect ourselves. But if we're not feeling judgmental in this safe space that we've created, our curiosity can then lead to the opening of our imagination and to the flow of our true creativity. Another factor that you'll see in the center of this particular screen is, apart from the group itself, having exposure to beauty, whether it's natural beauty or art or the beauty in other people, and the sense of awe that being overwhelmed by beauty can provide us, is another way of increasing this upward spiral of curiosity, imagination, creativity, and lead us into a sense of flow into the next spiral, which then I've just put a number of words, not in any particular order, the humility we come to feel when we realize we don't have to project something about our ego or project our mask, but that in fact, our very self is okay. The compassion, which when our hearts open, we invariably feel for other people. The gratitude for, oh my God, I feel safe, I feel open, I feel creative. The love. And finally, the connectedness leads us through to the top of the spiral, which what I've found in all the people I've worked with and in my own reflections about myself and the progression through this leads to a desire to serve with love, which is ultimately a piece of feeling a part of the community and a part of a desire to serve the community. And I just want to close because there's another piece to this that we need to consider. And if we could see the other slide. When we get triggered, these arrows represent something that might trigger us that then takes us back into that place of trauma. This is human, this is normal. But the practices that we engage in, whether in a safe container of a group, in a meditation that we might do on our own, in a physical practice like walking in nature or yoga or dancing, those are the pathways back up. Because what we're doing is engraving in our brain pathways a new path which enables us to come back more quickly each time to the serving with love and being in presence, which was the center of the last spiral. So I thought I would stop there and we would go back to the question of courage in the face of fear. Thank you.
Polaroid of our journey into growing into a more present state. Yeah, and I would just again, this is an interesting way of looking into how and into the relationship between courage and fear. And we've listed here the physical sensations of resistance and fear on one side of the screen, and the physical sensations of courage on the other side of the screen. And if you take a moment to just look through this and look at one in comparison to the other, you might notice something. And I'm going to not tell you, but let you notice it. Maybe you'll notice something different than what I noticed as well. And from here, we would love to hear from you on what you might have noticed from the relationship between fear and courage. What you know, if you have any ideas to share with us and thoughts to share with us, questions. Peggy, I don't know if you wanted to share anything else before we open to the group for a conversation.
Well, maybe it would be good if people could just say some of their noticing as a start to the conversation.
That would be great. And I'll keep it on the screen so you can continue to look at it. But we would love to hear from you and see what might you notice, might you have noticed. I recognize a good thing when it comes time to end, and I wish we had more and more and more and more time. I know there are some of you who have not had the chance to speak, and I know we're going to go with a few raised hands that didn't get a word in, but this will be repeated. We are going to do it again. And I think it's just the start. It is really, truly wonderful to be with you, to be in community at this time. We have a couple more things we wanted to do. The first thing that we wanted to do is to repeat words question now and take stock again and ask you, if you take one moment, and you might choose to close your eyes and take a breath, a deep breath in and slow exhale. And if we can go back to our little chat box there on the bottom right, if you can find Vincent once more. Vincent, say hi so people can see who you are.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. And if you can share 3 words, not a sentence, but 3 words that represent how you're feeling right now. At the very, very end of our call in 7 minutes, we will want to share something with you. And I think the last thing that we wanted to do is just a little tool, a strategy that my meditation teacher has shared, which is a cool way to respond, to begin to respond when you feel like you're stuck. And a lot of us have mentioned here that there's this place where we are experiencing feeling in our bodies, you know, that when the fear happens, that there's this moment of feeling stuck, or feeling stuck with the disgust, or feeling stuck with this anxiety of trying to do things and not being able to do them, or stuck with irritability. So the invitation is to follow a very simple process, which is to start by, I'm going to use my hand, start by noticing, recognizing this fear is here, and I would rather, it's not a comfortable place to be, it's not a generative place to be, so I would like to transform this. So the noticing of the irritability, the noticing of the rage or the disgust, or the noticing of the feeling is the step number 1. Or is the pre-step, let's call point 0. Let's notice. And then once we notice, we can decide. Let's see my thumb. Decide to transform it is the next movement. Once you have decided, sometimes deciding alone can transform everything. But if you're still feeling stuck, you can try and you can go. And Louis, you mentioned that one at the beginning of the call, and I thought, oh, here he is. He's already doing it. Breath. Go to your breath. Take a deep breath. Take a break. 5 minutes meditation. You know, focus on your breath and see how it will help move the way you feel and transform the way you feel. Then after that, if that didn't do it, move your body. Our bodies are where we live. It's a place of transformation. Dance, move, go for a run, do some yoga, do the wiggles, do whatever it takes for you to start moving and transforming that state that might not be a very generative state. Another tool you have, which is equivalent to moving, is sounding. Sounding is a vibratory force. When you sound, when you create sounds, you sing, you can sometimes shout, but sounding is also an excellent tool for you to move from a stuck state in a particular uncomfortable, from moving from an uncomfortable degenerative place to a more generative one. And the last one is feel, which is always the tricky one for me. I don't know what you think, Peggy, and I would love to invite you to share a little bit of your experience with this too. But feeling, sometimes we just need to feel what we are feeling at this moment, and just like really going into that feeling and not identifying with it, but really letting it be is also a beautiful sort of avenue for a new direction. So I'm going to repeat: notice, decide, breathe, move, sound, feel. This is something I use, and been proven very helpful to me. Peggy, do you want to share a few thoughts on that?
Well, the thought that came to me as you were saying that, Marilia, and I love that sequence, is we could actually practice it right now. So
oh, yes.
If we're willing to be a little vulnerable, I'm assuming that all of us have spent this time noticing and deciding, because that's what we've been talking about. So let's try the following. First of all, let's take a deep breath and let it out. Secondly, let's just, from whatever position we're in, let's move our bodies while we continue to breathe. Let's see some good motion. And then, thirdly, let us sound while we breathe and move our bodies. This is going to take the most courage, because we want to see and hear all of this coming from all of you. So let's take a deep breath in, move our bodies, and as we breathe out, make some kind of a sound. Ah! Of course, I made so much sound I couldn't hear you. Let's do that again. I want to hear you.
We have to be out of mute though to hear each other.
Yes.
Unmute yourselves. Let's hear our voices. Yes. Woo!
Have this present for you, but we're getting a message. Still need 3 minutes, which maybe is how are we doing, Vincent?
I think JT is the one, but how about feeling? How about we take
That
now
was
the last one?
Yes. I wanted to say this one thing about that. This is the good news and the bad news. If we do all those other things, probably more when we're in a little bit more privacy than here, it's very likely that some feelings will get released. Those feelings could be a sense of joy and ecstasy because we've just released our bodies and our minds and all of that, or it could be tears, because the releasing of all that we've been holding very often leads to tears. That's the feeling part, the joy or the grief or whatever expression it is that we have. So that's again where sometimes our fear comes back in because we just don't want to let go to that. But it is a cleansing. If the tears flow, that's actually the cleansing that we need to bring our energy back to be present to all the things that we need to face in these moments and hours and days going forward. So
That's
Vincent,
thank you, Peggy.
are you in touch with JT, and can you tell us how we are?
We'll have it in just a moment.
Okay, so those of you that can hang in for one more moment, we're going to show you something.
Ready.
Here.
Yes, I'm ready.
We wanted to share something with you.
Meanwhile, I'm actually going to put on some music while this shows. Marilia, do you want to describe this?
Yes. So when we asked you the first the questions the first time around, this is the word cloud on your left that represents all the words that you have shared with us. And the bigger the word is, the more repeated the word was. So on the left, you have big, anxious, right at the center, tired, grateful, calm, center, the energized, excited, and settled. You see there's quite a mix of words there, both positive and negative, and some of them neutral. And then on the right, what you have is the word cloud from the second time we asked the question. I love that connected is right there in the middle, and grateful, reflective, hopeful. So this is an offering in a fun way for us to to recognize that our time together and how we are at this moment and how we were before. To me, it says again how important it is to be in community, and I'm so grateful to be with you here today. And looking forward to continuing the conversation. And Peggy, I hope you have some, maybe you have some final goodbyes.
Only the music.
Wonderful. Okay, well, everyone, this has been really a gift, and stay tuned for other opportunities. We're going to keep keep holding space for this conversation to be shared, and for other conversations, other topics to be shared with all of you. And be well, take care of yourselves, and we'll be reconnecting soon.